You cancel the plans. Again, not because you don't care about the person who invited you, not because you're depressed or broken or wrong, but because the thought of going out feels like putting on armor, like performing, like being someone you're not. And staying home feels like taking off that armor, like breathing, like finally being yourself. If you understand this feeling, this video is for you. Today we're exploring the psychology of people who love to stay at home, the ones society calls boring and asocial, missing out. But maybe they're not missing anything. Maybe they've found something most people spend their whole lives searching for: peace. Let's begin with a question nobody asks. What if home isn't where you hide from life? What if home is where life actually happens? We live in a world that equates doing with living, going out, seeing people, filling every hour with activity and noise and stimulation. And if you don't want that, if you'd rather stay in, there must be something wrong with you. But is there? Or is it possible that some souls are built differently? That for some people, the outer world drains what the inner world fills? Carl Jung introduced the terms introvert and extrovert in 1921, nearly 100 years ago. He said there's no such thing as a pure introvert or pure extrovert. Such a person would be in a lunatic asylum. We all exist on a spectrum, leaning one way or another depending on the day, the situation, the season of our lives. But here's what matters. Extroverts gain energy from socializing. Introverts recharge by spending time alone. Extroverts are drawn to the outer world of people and activities. Introverts retreat to the inner world of thoughts and feelings. This isn't good or bad. It's not strong or weak. It just is. Like being right-handed or left-handed. A way your brain is wired. A truth about who you are. And understanding this changes everything. Because if you're someone who loves to stay home, you've probably been told your whole life that something's wrong with you. As a child, you loved reading books, watching movies, creating things in your own little world. You'd spend hours organizing your room not because you had to, but because it made you happy. But your family couldn't quite grasp it. They thought your preference for quiet and solitude meant you were reclusive, that something was wrong. They'd insist you go do something outside, as though your hobbies weren't good enough. And maybe you started to believe them. Started to think that loving home meant you were broken somehow. But you're not broken. You're just different. And different isn't wrong. We live under what Susan Cain calls the extrovert ideal. Introversion has become a second-class personality trait, somewhere between a disappointment and a pathology. Our most important institutions, schools and workplaces, are designed for extroverts. Desks arranged in pods, offices divided by low cubicles, groupthink and gregariousness prized above all. If you thrive in quiet, if you need solitude to think, if you prefer working independently, you're swimming against the current. And many people, Cain notes, pretend to be more extroverted just to survive. Some fool even themselves. Until something happens. A layoff, an empty nest, a pandemic that forces everyone home. And suddenly you realize, I've been performing my whole life. This isn't me. Here's what research shows. Introverts tend to recharge their batteries by spending time alone or in small, intimate settings rather than seeking stimulation from social interactions. Not always, not in every situation, but as a pattern, as a truth about how your energy works. And when you fight against that truth, when you force yourself to be someone you're not, you exhaust yourself. You lose touch with who you are. You start to feel like a stranger in your own life. But when you honor that truth, when you give yourself permission to be a homebody, something shifts. You stop apologizing, stop explaining, stop feeling guilty for wanting what you want. You start to see home differently, not as a prison or a hiding place, but as a sanctuary, a haven, a space that's completely yours. There's something uniquely grounding about being in a space that's completely yours. For introverted homebodies, the familiar sights, sounds, and rhythms of home create an environment where we can recharge and focus. It's a place of comfort, control, and authenticity, a space where we can be ourselves without the distractions or demands of external expectations. Think about that word, authenticity. How often do you get to be truly authentic in the world? At work, you perform professionalism. At social gatherings, you perform pleasantness. Even with family, there's often a role you play. But home? Home is where the performance ends, where you can be messy and quiet and exactly who you are without explanation or apology. And for some people, that's not a small thing. That's everything. Many homebodies choose to stay home because they're tired of being performative. Feeling drained constantly from work or school, they actively choose home whenever they have the chance. In their eyes, if they can create an opportunity to be authentic rather than performative, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they indeed? Let's talk about what society gets wrong. They call homebodies boring and asocial, afraid of life. But is someone boring because they prefer depth over breadth? Because they'd rather read a book than make small talk at a party? Introverts and homebodies prefer more deep, meaningful conversations rather than surface-level ones that come with small talk. If you're not a fan of small talk and find it exhausting and without meaning, that might be why you want to stay home. This isn't about hating people. It's about valuing substance. It's about recognizing that not all connection is equal. That sometimes the loneliest place in the world is a room full of people having conversations that mean nothing. While some research suggests that people who have substantive conversations are happier than small talkers, studies also show a little chit-chat can be good for your state of mind. Balance. Always balance. You don't have to love small talk, but you also don't have to avoid all human connection. You just have to find the kind of connection that fills you instead of drains you. And for many homebodies, that looks different than what society expects. It's the long conversation with one close friend instead of the party with 100 acquaintances. It's the quiet dinner at home instead of the loud restaurant. It's choosing quality over quantity, depth over breadth, meaning over performance. And there's nothing boring about that. Here's another misunderstanding. People assume homebodies are antisocial. But antisocial means you don't like people, that you actively avoid connection. That's not what this is. Many introverts are perfectly comfortable speaking to large groups, attending events, or networking when the situation calls for it. The difference is that these activities can feel draining rather than invigorating. Afterward, we need solitude to replenish and refocus. You can love people and still need space from them. You can enjoy socializing and still need home to recover. These aren't contradictions. They're the reality of how some brains work. Extroverts, who feel energized by social interaction, may view introverts' need for downtime as avoidance or disinterest. The truth is, introverts can be deeply social and enjoy meaningful relationships, but they prioritize quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. In friendships, in activities, in how you spend your precious, finite time on this earth. And if that means saying no to things that don't serve you, if that means staying home more than going out, that's not failure. That's wisdom. Let's explore what home actually provides. For those who love it, home is more than walls and furniture. It's psychological, emotional, almost spiritual. Some homebodies describe having an almost spiritual connection to their home. It's where your nervous system finally settles, where the constant vigilance of being in the world can finally relax. The preference for staying home among introverts is rooted in their need for solitude and the ability to control their environment. Control. In a chaotic, unpredictable world, home offers something rare: the ability to curate your environment, your stimulation level, your interactions. You control the temperature, the lighting, the sounds, the people, or lack thereof. And for those sensitive to overstimulation, that control isn't luxury. It's necessity. Research shows that having a space where you feel safe and in control can significantly improve mental well-being. For introverts, who are often more sensitive to environmental stimuli, this sense of control is essential. Home becomes a haven where overstimulation gives way to restoration. Restoration. What a word. Because that's what home offers. the chance to restore what the world depletes: your energy, your sense of self, your peace. And the activities that happen there aren't empty or meaningless. They're often deeply fulfilling. The homebody lifestyle is often built around routines that bring stability and joy. For many, the simple act of tidying up, cooking a meal, or tending to a creative project is deeply fulfilling. Research shows meditation can ease anxiety and depression. Reading for at least 30 minutes reduces stress. Solitude helps form more lasting and accurate memories. These aren't escapes from life. These are practices that enhance life. The books you read expand your mind in ways a party never could. The creative projects you pursue develop skills and bring satisfaction. The quiet moments alone teach you who you are. According to a study published in Nature Medicine, individuals with hobbies tend to have better health and moods. So when society tells you you're wasting your life by staying home, what they're really saying is, you're not living the way I think you should live. But your life isn't theirs to judge. Now let's be honest about something. Being a homebody is a conscious choice, one that reflects how you want to live day to day. Introversion is a personality trait, a natural way of processing the world, while being a homebody is a lifestyle choice. These aren't the same thing, and they don't always overlap. Some introverts love exploring new places. Some extroverts love hosting gatherings at home. But when they do overlap, when an introverted personality meets a homebody lifestyle, something beautiful happens. You stop fighting yourself. Stop pretending. Stop performing. You build a life that actually fits who you are. And that's rare, precious, worth protecting. But here's where we need nuance, where we need to be careful and honest with ourselves. Staying home alone is the easiest default for most introverts, but too much of that is simply not good for us. Our need for interaction and connection may vary widely, but the flip side of the exhaustion we feel after too much interaction is the loss we are bound to feel after too much time alone. Balance. Always balance. There is evidence that a tendency to feel lonely is related to our genes, but that doesn't mean you're immune to loneliness. This is the danger zone, where preference becomes isolation, where homebody becomes hermit. Research shows lonely people tend to be more hostile. Some introverts who want nothing to do with other people might be deeply, painfully lonely, stuck in a self-perpetuating cycle of rejecting and being rejected. So how do you know? How do you tell the difference between healthy solitude and unhealthy isolation? Ask yourself, am I choosing this or am I hiding from something? Am I staying home because it fills me or because I'm afraid of what's outside? Am I content in my solitude? Or am I lonely, but telling myself I prefer it this way? Brutal honesty. That's what's required. Because there's a huge difference between an introvert who loves home and someone using home to avoid dealing with their pain. One is self-care. The other is self-sabotage. And only you know which one you're doing. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, people will actively choose something familiar over the excitement of something new. Familiarity is comforting, but it can also become a trap. If you never step outside your comfort zone, if you never challenge yourself, if you let years pass without growth or connection or risk, that's not peace. That's stagnation. And you deserve more than that. As Susan Cain says, spend your free time the way you like, not the way you think you're supposed to. But also make a deal with yourself that you'll attend a set number of social events in exchange for not feeling guilty when you beg off. Balance. Honoring yourself while also pushing yourself gently toward growth. Sometimes caving to friends' pressure leads to amazing experiences and memories that were much better than staying home on the couch. Don't force yourself to travel a certain way, but make sure you're not putting up walls and limitations for yourself either. This is wisdom. You can love home and still explore the world. You can be a homebody and still say yes to adventure sometimes. You don't have to be one thing. You're allowed to contain multitudes. Even homebodies should go outside a few minutes a day, whether for vitamin D or a change in scenery. Constantly staying home isn't always great and can quickly cripple someone's mental health if they aren't careful. So here's what I'm saying. Love your home. Honor your need for solitude. Build a life that fits your introverted nature. But don't use it as an excuse to avoid all discomfort, all growth, all connection. Because humans need humans. Even introverted ones. Even homebodies. We're wired for connection, for belonging, for community, however small. And if you've been alone so long you've forgotten that, if you've convinced yourself you don't need anyone, be careful. That might not be wisdom. That might be loneliness wearing a mask. Let's talk about judgment. Because if you're a homebody, you've felt it. The looks, the comments, the subtle and not so subtle implications that there's something wrong with you. You need to get out more. You're wasting your life. Aren't you lonely? And maybe you've internalized those voices. Maybe you've started to believe them. But consider this. For those who value their peace, there's value in staying home. From not seeing toxic family members to avoiding crazy ex-friends, people don't want to give up the peaceful life they created. Sometimes staying home isn't about avoiding life. It's about protecting your peace. In a world where everyone is way too busy, with work piling up and people moving on to different chapters of their lives, many feel more content staying home. And for some, going outside feels more like a chore than an enjoyable experience. From needing to carry pepper spray to continually being on the lookout, safety concerns make isolation the winner. Context matters. Circumstances matter. Your mental health matters. And what works for someone else might not work for you. So when they judge, when they question, when they imply you're living wrong, remember this. They're living their life. You're living yours. And only one of those lives is yours to judge. Kane explains that culturally, we need much better balance. More yin and yang between introverts and extroverts. Solitude is crucial to creativity and deep thinking. Socializing is crucial to spreading those gifts. Both matter. Both have value. Both serve the world. The artist who spends months alone creating something beautiful. The writer who disappears into solitude to craft stories that touch millions. The thinker who needs quiet to develop ideas that change paradigms. They're not wasting their lives by staying home. They're doing the work that can only be done in solitude. And that work matters. Maybe your work isn't art or writing or philosophy. Maybe it's raising children, healing from trauma, building a business, learning who you are. Whatever it is, if it requires solitude, take it, unapologetically, because the world needs what only you can create. And you can't create it while performing for others. Here's what I want you to remember. If you love staying home, if solitude fills you instead of drains you, if home is where you're most yourself, you're not broken. You're not boring. You're not antisocial. You're not missing out. You're an introvert living in an extroverted world. And that takes courage. Courage to choose yourself when the world says choose others. Courage to be quiet when the world demands noise. Courage to stay in when the world insists you go out. That's not weakness. That's strength. The strength to know yourself, to honor yourself, to build a life that actually fits you. And yes, sometimes that means pushing yourself, saying yes to things that scare you, connecting even when it's hard, because growth requires discomfort. And you don't want to look back and realize you let fear disguise itself as preference. But most of the time it means trusting yourself. Trusting that you know what you need better than anyone else. That your introverted nature is a gift, not a flaw. That home isn't where you hide from life, but where life truly happens. So the next time someone tells you to get out more, to live a little, to stop being so quiet and boring, smile. Thank them for their concern. Then go home. Light your favorite candle. Make your favorite tea. Open your favorite book. And remember, this is your life. And you're living it exactly as you should. Not how they think you should. How you know you need to. And that's the only thing that matters. If this video resonated with you, if you're a homebody who finally feels seen, I want you to do something. Stop apologizing. Stop explaining. Stop feeling guilty. You're exactly who you're supposed to be, living exactly how you're meant to live. The world needs your quiet strength, your deep thinking, your authentic presence. So stay home and own it. Because there's no place like home. And for souls like ours, there never will be.